There is a quiet assumption many of us carry into later life, that health must be chased, pursued, even wrestled back through effort. That strength lives in the gym. That vitality belongs to structured routines, machines, and repetitions counted with discipline. But what if the body, especially after 60, is not asking for more intensity, but more continuity? What if the most profound shift in health does not come from doing more, but from stopping less? Imagine the human body not as a machine that needs occasional repair, but as a living system that thrives on constant, gentle motion. For most of human history, movement was not an event. It was a background condition. Walking, standing, reaching, bending. These were not exercises. They were simply life. And the body evolved in that environment. It expects movement not in bursts, but as a steady rhythm. When we sit for long periods, something subtle yet significant begins to happen. Muscles, especially in the legs and core, become electrically quiet. Their activity drops. This matters more than it seems, because muscles are not just for movement. They are deeply involved in regulating metabolism. When they are inactive, enzymes responsible for breaking down fats and sugars begin to slow down. Blood circulation becomes less dynamic. Even the way our cells respond to insulin starts to change. It is not dramatic. It does not feel urgent. That is precisely why it is powerful. After the age of 60, the body becomes more sensitive to these quiet changes. Muscle mass naturally declines in a process known as sarcopenia. Blood vessels lose some of their elasticity. The efficiency of mitochondrial function, the energy factories inside cells, gradually decreases. None of this is a flaw. It is simply biology. But it means the margin for inactivity becomes smaller. Here is where the idea of sitting less begins to reveal its significance. You can go to the gym for 1 hour. You can walk on a treadmill, lift weights, even push yourself. And this has undeniable value. But if the remaining 23 hours of the day are spent sitting, in a chair, on a sofa, in stillness, the metabolic benefits of that 1 hour begin to fade. Not completely, but measurably. Research over the past 2 decades has shown something intriguing. Prolonged sitting is not just the absence of exercise. It is its own physiological state, with its own effects on the body. It is not simply neutral. In that state, circulation slows. The muscles that normally help pump blood through the veins, especially in the legs, are less active. This can influence everything from blood pressure regulation to how nutrients are delivered to tissues. Over time, this contributes to stiffness, reduced joint mobility, and even subtle changes in posture that affect breathing. But when you interrupt sitting, even briefly, something changes. Standing up activates large muscle groups. Walking a few steps re-engages the cardiovascular system. Shifting your weight, stretching, reaching. These small acts send signals throughout the body. Blood flow increases. Oxygen delivery improves. Neural pathways are stimulated. It is as if the body is being reminded, again and again, of its natural state, motion. And these reminders accumulate. This is the key difference between traditional exercise and reducing sitting time. Exercise is episodic. It has a beginning and an end. But reducing sitting is continuous. It weaves movement back into the fabric of the day. After 60, this continuity becomes more important than intensity. Consider the joints. With age, cartilage becomes thinner, and synovial fluid, which lubricates the joints, is produced less efficiently. Movement helps circulate this fluid, but it does not require strain. In fact, gentle, frequent movement is often more beneficial than occasional, intense activity. It nourishes the joint surfaces, maintains flexibility, and reduces stiffness. The same principle applies to the brain. When you move regularly throughout the day, even in small ways, you increase cerebral blood flow. This supports cognitive function, mood regulation, and memory. There is a growing understanding that physical movement is not just for the body. It is deeply intertwined with how the brain ages. Long periods of sitting have been associated with reduced mental sharpness, while frequent movement appears to help maintain neural connectivity. There is also something quietly powerful happening at the level of hormones. The body's regulation of blood sugar, for example, is highly responsive to muscle activity. After a meal, glucose enters the bloodstream. Muscles help absorb this glucose, using it for energy. But when muscles are inactive for long periods, this process becomes less efficient. Blood sugar levels remain elevated for longer, which over time can strain the body's metabolic systems. Simply standing or walking after eating can significantly improve this process. Not through effort, but through presence, through allowing the body to do what it is designed to do. This is why sitting less is not a substitute for the gym. It is a different dimension of health altogether. The gym asks the body to perform. Sitting less asks the body to exist more naturally. And after 60, natural patterns often become more sustainable than structured ones. There is also a psychological layer to this. The idea of exercise can sometimes feel burdensome, especially if mobility is limited or if past injuries exist. It can create a sense of obligation, even resistance. But reducing sitting does not carry the same weight. It is not a task. It is a shift in awareness. It is choosing to stand while talking on the phone. It is walking a few steps every hour. It is placing objects slightly out of reach so that the body must move to engage with them. These are not workouts. They are micro-decisions that gently reshape the day. And over weeks and months, these micro-decisions accumulate into meaningful change. Posture begins to improve. Balance becomes more stable. The risk of falls, a major concern after 60, can decrease as muscles remain more engaged and responsive. Even energy levels can shift, as the body avoids the sluggishness that often accompanies prolonged sitting. There is a paradox here. The less we sit, the more capable we feel. And the more capable we feel, the more we move. It becomes a positive feedback loop. This does not diminish the value of structured exercise. Strength training, for example, is incredibly important for maintaining muscle mass and bone density. Cardiovascular exercise supports heart health. These remain essential components of a healthy lifestyle. But they are not the whole picture. If we imagine health as a landscape, the gym is like a mountain, visible, intentional, demanding. Reducing sitting is like the ground beneath our feet, constant, often unnoticed, but foundational. Without that ground, the mountain alone cannot sustain us. There is also an evolutionary perspective worth considering. The human body did not evolve to sit in chairs for extended periods. Sitting itself is not harmful. It is the duration and continuity that matter. Our ancestors rested, certainly, but they did not remain motionless for hours at a time. Their rest was interspersed with movement, even if subtle. In modern life, especially with technology, sitting has become prolonged and uninterrupted, and the body, in its quiet intelligence, responds accordingly. So when we speak of health after 60, perhaps the question is not how hard should I exercise, but how often do I allow my body to move? It is a gentler question, but it may be the more powerful one. There is a kind of wisdom in aligning with the body's natural tendencies rather than pushing against them. Aging is not a failure of the system. It is a transition. And in that transition, the strategies that once worked may need to evolve. High-intensity workouts may feel less accessible. Recovery may take longer. But the capacity for movement, small, frequent, consistent, remains. And in many ways, it becomes more valuable. Because it is not just about maintaining strength or preventing disease. It is about preserving a relationship with the body, a sense of ease, of responsiveness, of quiet vitality. When you stand up after sitting, you are not just changing posture. You are reactivating systems that keep you alive and well. You are reminding your body of its design. And over time, these reminders become a language the body understands. A language of movement, of circulation, of engagement. So the idea that sitting less is more powerful than the gym after 60 is not a rejection of exercise. It is a reframing of what power looks like. Power is not always intensity. Sometimes it is consistency. Sometimes it is subtle. Sometimes it is the simple act of not remaining still for too long. And in that simplicity, there is something deeply scientific and quietly profound.